Welcome to Hanging at the Hangar Bar. I'm Scott.
I'm Candace.
I'm Lariah.
And I'm Lacey. Grab a drink and come hang with us at the Hangar Bar. Hey everyone. So today is a kind of bittersweet day because today is our final episode of season 2. Kind of hard to believe that this is our second season.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I feel like we haven't been doing this that long, but at the same time, I feel I can't remember when we weren't doing this, you know?
Right.
We thought that today's episode, we would just kind of reflect on the year and talk about some of our favorite episodes that we have recorded and just some of the get-togethers we've had. Earlier this year, we took a trip to Marceline, if you guys can remember that, our listeners. We were just talking about how we can't believe that was this year because it feels like such a long time ago, but yet it also doesn't. Time is weird that way. And, you know, just we also wanted to talk about where this podcast is going to be going in our next season. We're toying the idea of mixing things up a little bit. So we just wanted to kind of just discuss all of that fun stuff. So since I already brought up Marceline, I feel like that was one of our, I don't know what the word to describe, but one of our most memorable recordings just because we were in a different state, in a different town. We were recording in the car, which was really fun. Also really funny to watch cars drive by as we're all mic'd up.
What are y'all doing?
We were literally on the road recording, and it was fun. And I don't know of very many podcasters who've done that before. So we should look into that, see if that's like a world record sort of
We should
thing.
get like an innovation award for podcasting.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
The road trip series.
Right. Yeah. Because when did we went in April? Okay.
Yeah, and the episode's released in May, right?
Yeah. So that was a really fun day, I think, for all of us. We hadn't gone on really a vacation in few years or so. So I think all of us getting out of the city and being together and experiencing something new to all of us for the most part. Have you two been to Marceline before?
We've been through Marceline, but we've never stopped any place in Marceline. So it was a very new experience for us as well.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
We had driven through because my brother was living in St. Louis. And
that's right.
The way we went, we just drove by it and we saw the sign and we're like, oh, let's just swing through. And then that's when we made the commitment that we need to come back and do the museum and that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, that was a fun day and really windy day too.
Very windy day. Typical spring.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know we've tried to convince you already, but for newer listeners who are just listening in now, this is your first episode, welcome. If you live in the Midwest and you're missing Disney, we recommend going to Marceline. I mean, it's not going to be anywhere close to going to Disneyland or Disney World, but it kind of feeds that part of your heart there when you're missing Disney. At least it was for me.
Well, and if you think about it, the inspiration for Main Street USA was right there. So that kind of, I mean, there is a little throwback to the parks for that. I think if anything, our trip to Marceline, which was probably one of my very favorite things that we've done this season, cemented my love for Disney that much more. And I didn't think that that was probably possible. But just seeing the family history and like being in the place where Walt actually walked and grew up for 5 years and like some of the actual history of it all just made it like that much more clear and interesting and like, okay, all right.
Right. You could tell that town was so proud to be the town where Walt grew up in, which is so amazing to see that like
little tiny town in middle Missouri. And it's just like, boom.
Right.
Yeah, they definitely live for those moments and they live for the Walt Disney name and all of those kind of things, which is really cool. And for me, that trip was it took us back to the origin story of our podcast too. Like we talked about, like I'm going to go back to our first season, like first episode of our first season when we were reminiscing about our road trip down to Disney World. It felt like that to me, where we're just on the way down there just talking Disney. We're talking different things that just conversation just comes so naturally that you just go with it. And that's what that whole trip felt like to me. It was connecting our group back together in a Disney way again, which we hadn't done in a while. And it was so much fun. Yeah. Favorite moment from that road trip?
Hearing Inez's story about meeting Walt.
Yes.
Yep, that was a good one. I think every time I think of that trip, I don't know why I don't think of the museum so much as I think about the Dusty Miller.
It's because you have a special relationship with ice cream that none of us will ever understand.
That's true.
Yeah, that's your love language right there.
It is.
Ice cream.
Yeah. I've written my own love language. It's ice cream.
So you need a supplement to the 5 love languages book?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I love how you have a way of justifying eating ice cream no matter the temperature outside. That is, he told me you eat it when it's cold outside to match, so your body matches the temperature
Yeah.
And
that
you
it
feel
is
warmer.
outside, and you feel warmer. But you eat it when it's hot outside because it'll cool you down.
Yeah, it cools your core temperature. That's,
Makes so much sense.
It does.
And I love it.
Whatever you need to do to justify is absolutely fine.
Right. So funny.
it is what it is. Ice cream is the bestest. So that Marceline trip for me also, the scale model of Disneyland and
Amazing.
how they have that set up was really cool too. But the road trip was just fun.
It really was.
Just sitting here thinking we should do it again next year.
Okay.
Make it a yearly thing.
Yeah.
That would be
A
fun.
yearly pilgrimage.
Yeah, and try the different Disney restaurants that are there.
Yeah. And maybe go on a day where it's a little bit nicer and maybe visiting some shops and stuff
Yeah.
like that, you know?
Spend a little bit of money in Marceline
Yeah.
outside of just the museum and lunch.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe we could, now that we're like following some of the things on Facebook, we could get in contact with somebody in the city and do something. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Ooh, we could do an episode with Inez.
Yeah, that's kind of where mine.
Have her on as a guest.
Oh, dude. We're going to make this happen.
Well, we were talking about potential changes to next year's.
Yes, we were.
Style,
Yes, we were.
that's-
Yep.
All of those things are open for us.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so thinking back on, I think we're up to 38 or 39. This might be our 40th episode of the season. What's been your favorite episode of the season?
I know what mine has been.
Okay.
Our interview with James Warda was absolutely amazing.
That was a good.
It was so much fun.
Yeah, it was somebody who the conversation flowed naturally. We learned a lot. Yeah, it was just a great conversation. That one was a fun one to record. Lacey, Lariah, favorite episode?
My favorite was the one where we were all sharing our opinions at Disney.
The unpopular opinions episode?
Yes.
That was a good one.
Those are always fun.
Right?
Yeah, they were funny to.
Yeah, anytime Candace gets the snark out, it's always a good day.
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't know I ever put it away.
You hide it sometimes very
thank you.
well. I would have to say one of my favorite ones was talking about the new shows at Disney World. That one was a lot of fun because I love how we all watch something separately. Well, not you two, obviously, but like me and Lariah watched the shows, you and Candace watched the shows, and then we compared notes and how differently our opinions were. And I love discussing those kinds of things, and I hope in the future we do a lot more of reactions to new, like even talking about Disney news. That's another one where you two did the Disney news. It was
For D23.
yes, and I love our opinionated but also kind of informative, where we give a little bit of information and then we give our opinion about it. Those are my favorite ones to listen to because those are the ones I seek out personally when I listen to podcasts, and it's so cool to be on the other side, like recording and giving our opinions and also information out there.
Yeah, that's so cool. I think for me, one of my favorites, so I'm not going to take one that Candace already said, but that one was a fun one. I'm going to point to a series that we did in March when we released the bracket challenges.
Those are fun.
That was fun to just sort of sit down and have us all design our own brackets and come and say, okay, let's talk about what wins today, and just sort of the consternation that went into some of the decisions that we made, and having to vote and say, sorry, Lariah, you're wrong.
We learned a lot about each other with those brackets.
Yeah.
And I did not think any of those would win. I don't even remember really what one this was. Ride, song.
We did ride, song,
and movie?
land, and movie.
Oh, land was the other
And there
one.
may have been a fifth one too, because I think there were 5 Mondays in March. I don't remember what they all are. We'll have to go back and listen to them again.
I guess so.
Yeah, those are fun.
Lariah.
Yeah.
You looked like you were going to say something.
Oh, no, just thinking.
Just thinking.
I was trying to remember the brackets.
Yeah.
Going through them.
Yeah. I feel like this year getting together and recording has been really nice because we don't spend a lot of time together anymore. Mm-hmm. And when we do get together, it's extra special to me. Mm-hmm. So even just getting together, having drinks and talking this year has just been really needed for me anyway. It's kind of like how Scott was talking about going to Disney. It's like a warm blanket, being around people who, I've known pretty much my whole life and everything, and Lariah too, and just talking about stuff that we love and talking about our opinions about Disney is always a fun time with us.
Yeah.
We're very opinionated.
Yes.
Yes.
And I love that about us.
Well, and I think it adds to it because we have that shared experience of the trip together. Mm-hmm. Like all 4 of us have that one trip. Lacey, you have the trip with Scott and I where we went on the cruise as well. Mm-hmm. And I think just sharing those experiences and reminiscing and kind of coming from that same perspective and yet having our own opinions about those perspectives, that's good listening right there.
Yeah.
Right.
Toot toot.
Tooting your own horn, is that what that was?
Our own horn.
Our own horn. Okay. Yeah, and I think your point, Lacey, is such a good one in that as we get older, and I think this is true of anybody that has relationships, you have to make time for them. And this podcast has given us the opportunity to make time for people that maybe that would have slipped away. And not saying that we wouldn't be as close as we are, because I think the friendship is deeper than what this podcast is, but it gives us that chance to get together and continue to learn one another. We've known Lacey and Lariah since before they knew themselves, and yet we're learning things every day. We're learning new things, and I think they're probably learning things about us, and it's just helping that relationship, and it's forcing us into getting together, which life gets busy, and that can be a hard thing to do, but this kind of commitment to each other just I think it helps. I think it's good.
The magic of Disney.
We don't have the sound effect
I'm
for
sorry.
that. Bring. I can add that in post. I think I have one.
I think you do too.
I think I've used it when I've done interruptions
Yes.
into people's episode as the editor.
Yeah. If you didn't know anybody, or our listeners, if you didn't know Scott, I also wanted to take a minute and just thank Scott for all he does with this podcast. I mean, he does a lot. He is the editor for this podcast, and he has a busy schedule. You like to keep busy, which is amazing, but I just want to say thank you so much for all you have done for this podcast, because and we don't thank you enough for it, because you do a lot for it, and I don't understand how you can be so patient and so positive about this, because after doing the podcast for 2 years, on my end, I don't do a whole lot for the podcast. I show up and I'm here and I love being with you guys, but I think I have a busy schedule, but looking at you do a lot of things at your job. You do a lot of things for our church. And then on top of that, you are the editor. And I just think
Plus you have to deal with me all the time. So
yeah.
That's a full-time job.
Right. You're with a group of women who have moods, You are with us, and we're introverts. You're the only extrovert of this group, and you're just so positive, even though I feel like Scott and I are a little bit more extroverted, especially being at the Disney parks. We're kind of like children. I think we should have the monkey backpacks, to be honest, because when we're at the parks, Scott and I
go.
Y'all just run rogue. It's crazy.
And I think I brought this up.
No, we're on a schedule. We have to go over here and over here and over here.
And Lacey and I just part and go different directions
all the time. And it just, all I can think about is the first time all of us rode Expedition to Everest. And Scott and I looked at each other and we're like, again? And Lariah and Candace were like, we're going to have a sit. We're going to sit.
I needed a minute. I thought I was going to die. I thought the Yeti was going to kill me.
Which I just find it so funny how our group is so perfect going to Disney, because I feel like you two are more like, can we chill for a second? And Scott and I are like, it's like 2:00 and we have only ridden like 6 rides. We need to do all of this now. There's so much to do. We don't have time to sit. And you two are like, well, we do. So, but anyway, I just wanted to give a really big thank you. And I think you do an amazing job.
Agreed.
With editing and so.
Thank you.
So cheers to you.
Cheers.
Clinky,
Clinky, clinky.
My ice is like melted. But
Well, thank you. It's a passion project. I love doing it. Candace gives me a hard time when I'm ignoring her and doing other things, though.
Ooh, dirty look.
Rude.
See, again, if I don't get an eye roll once per episode, I'm doing something wrong.
I did not roll my eyes.
She just gave you the really dirty look. Which may be equivalent to an eye roll. I don't know which one's worse. Oh. It's pretty nasty.
She's now giving me the look, which she knows doesn't work on me. So that's all it does is make me laugh, which just makes her angrier.
Don't you love that?
Oh, I do so much.
Love you, Candace.
Yeah.
Okay. So what other moments from this year's podcasts do we want to call out in this retrospective?
I will say that I found some of we're always very genuine in how we're coming across. We don't pretend to be anything we're not. We don't make up like false identities or whatever you want to call it. But I thought Lariah's episode about Halloween and all the good Halloween activities and snacks and all of that at Disney World was so much fun. And all of your just pure reactions to everything, and they were just so pure and so authentic, and you could just hear the excitement in your voice, and I just loved it. It was so cute.
It was a really good episode.
Thank you.
We want more of that. Well, we want more of that.
I'm like, go girl, you got this.
I want more episodes of the vegetarian talking about all the hot dogs at Disney World.
I can't eat any of this, but yum.
Well, thank you. That was an exciting episode.
It was awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was fun. I was just looking up to all of our episode lists for this year just to see if there were any others that...
Right. I mean, I can only speak for myself, but I was quite intoxicated for a lot of our episodes, so it's hard to remember some of them. But that's just because Scott makes really good drinks, and he makes them strong without me noticing. And they go down like water.
It's true. It's true. We did quite a few food episodes, too. which those are always fun.
Oh, yes. We're a group of foodies.
I also really appreciate Candace's trip planning series.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, with the informative ones, huge fan of those.
Thank you.
So hopefully,
Need to get better about those.
I mean, I'm sure it requires quite a bit of research and stuff.
Well, it does. And like, as I've said before, I don't like to do cookie cutter trips or say, this is how everybody should do this.
Right.
Because everybody's vacation experience needs to be so much different to have it be as magical as possible. So it's not always easy for somebody to ask me a question like, well, what do you think I should do about this? And I'm like, well, that's going to have 5 other questions for me to ask. So it's hard for me to sit down and say, well, I think you should plan a trip like this because I have no background.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
and you have planned trips for many different kinds of people, like families and, just Disney adults and everything like that. But the only vacation you have taken yourself, for the most part, has been for Disney adults. So it's easier, I'm sure, for you to talk about planning vacations for people going without children because, in your mind, you don't think about having to feed your kids every 20 minutes,
Well, and my only experience with actually traveling with children was my first trip there ever.
Right.
In 98, and it was with 2 18-month-old twins and a 6-year-old little boy, which was amazing. But it's just
changed a lot
It's
since
changed
then.
so much since then, and there's so many different facilities they have now that they didn't then, and so yeah.
All I'm picturing is your face at Chef Mickey's from that video.
Yep. That's the only thing that comes to mind.
This is our 5th character dining experience, and it's 7:30 in the morning. What am I doing here?
That is exactly
Yes.
how you looked.
Yes. And so for the trip planning ones, I think it would be interesting for future episodes for you to maybe even do a travel agent series where you're like, here's the questions I wish people would ask me. Or here's what I wish people would bring to the table with them so I could help them plan better. And even like I could see an episode or two where you just plan out a trip and say, here's all that comes with this trip and here's how much it costs. To give people an idea saying, look, you're not going to plan this exact trip. You're not going to go with these exact flights. You're not going to be all of this stuff. But if this was your trip, here's how much it would cost you.
Yeah, I agree. Like what do's and don'ts of getting a travel agent, like being on the opposite side. If you're looking for a travel agent, do's and don'ts. Like,
How to find a good one versus how to find somebody that's going to charge you $50 to push a button.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And also how to be a respectful client as well, like what is helpful to you, what is not as helpful to you being an agent, you know?
Yeah. Good. Thank you.
Yeah. So is there anything that we didn't do this season that you wished we had?
Gone to Disney? I don't know.
Well, yeah. That's always.
Right.
Yes. After almost every recording session, Candace and I end up pricing Disney trips.
We do.
Kind of do
Yeah.
the same
Yeah.
thing, so
Like we sit here and we talk Disney for a couple hours and then everybody goes their separate ways and Candace and I both get out our computers and say, we could go to Florida this year. We could make that happen. And then we start pricing and we're like, no, we can't.
No, we can't. Not if we want to do these 3 other things.
thanks inflation.
Right.
Is the dining plan back yet?
Not yet.
See, I don't think it would be worth going until it's back.
We don't think it's going to come back until the 50th celebration is over, which is March of next year.
Okay.
Because it doesn't have to. I mean,
Right.
they don't need that right now to get the parks full.
Yeah, that's true. Which is fine, but I personally, I don't think it would be worth going without that. I really like that.
I mean, we've done it without, we've done it with, and as far as I'm concerned, no question.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just so much less surprise
Yeah.
with the dining plan. Like
So much fewer restrictions, I think, too.
right. You don't have to you're not looking at the right hand side of the menu. And I know myself, and even if I have all the money in the world to spend, if I know I'm paying for every meal, I'm going to start looking at the right-hand side of the menu, where on the dining plan, you don't have to.
Right. And it's just it's less stress going, knowing that your food is pretty much paid for.
Right.
Like, that's something you don't have to worry about going. Like, especially if you run into an expense right before your trip, something with your car, something with your house. It's not like, oh, well, I guess we're going to be packing bread and peanut butter and jelly and
Right.
we're eating that the whole trip, you know?
Right.
So it's just nice. And that's why I think like cruises are another reason why they're like less stressful than the parks, because I do have to agree, being on a ship, being compared to the parks, it is way less stressful.
Mm-hmm. There's only so many places you can go.
Exactly. And your food is paid for the most part, you know, and it's just nice not having to worry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
agreed.
we're all like big foodies.
Yeah.
So it gave us the chance to try a ton of different things
Yeah.
that maybe would have been way more expensive, so we wouldn't have ordered it. And,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we're sitting down at a table and ordering four full-size appetizers, even just like with just food portion, we never would have ordered 4 appetizers.
Right.
If we
No.
would have done appetizers, we would have done one for the table and then ordered our entrees.
Like
and
normal
maybe,
people.
Right, like normal people. But we got to try so much more because of the dining plan.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. And I don't regret it.
No.
I don't think we'll go on that level ever again, just because I'm tired of being full all the time.
And it's overwhelming.
It really is. It's like, you mean we have to eat again?
Yeah.
And you feel like it has to be sit down just so you get your
Yeah.
value's worth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll see what they unleash when they bring them back out again.
Yeah,
Because they could change everything.
and they will.
Yeah.
It's Disney. They do what they do.
They do what they do. And we love them for it, despite all that.
That's right. That's right. What else? Anything else that you would have, or anything that you would have changed from any of our episodes, or episodes you would have added?
I think maybe just had us together more.
I agree.
But I mean, I know life happens, and I am very grateful for when we do all get.
Remix.
Waka waka what? When we all just get to be together.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are my favorite episodes. And I think along those lines, I think for me, when we aren't together and we're trying to fill in episodes, I wouldn't stress so much about some of those filler episodes.
Yeah.
And maybe if we, like in the off season, one of the things that I'd love for us to do is, here's the episodes that we want to record. And like, here's the ones that we're going to do together. And we'll talk about more of this offline, I think. But like, be more pre-planned in terms of what we need when we need it. So we're not recording on a Sunday afternoon for release on a Monday. I would rather us have, and that's just from an editing perspective, I would rather be a couple weeks ahead all the time.
Yeah.
So that way, if something does come up, I don't have to stress about missing a deadline or something like that. And that's one of the reasons why we didn't want to become an all news podcast, is because that comes with the stress of having to release quickly.
Yeah.
And I think just more pre-planning just would give me a few less gray hairs.
Well, and I think that too, if we did like, if we had more of a planned structure for the episodes, I think we could do like mass recording sessions and
Yeah.
just knock out a whole bunch of them so they're locked and loaded. And then if somebody has a great idea, like, oh, I'm going to talk about the gingerbread house in the Grand Floridian, you get yourself recorded and you get the episode over, and it's just, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. As we kind of wrap up, this will be our last episode of season 2, because we're going to take a break for Thanksgiving. This one will release on the Monday before Thanksgiving, and then we'll take the end of the year off and start either in January or February again with new episodes. What are you most looking forward to for season 3? Let's give our listeners a little bit of a teaser.
I think we've kind of broken new ground this season by having a couple of guests on board, and I would like to do more of that, and just kind of expand a little bit more, and maybe delve into some of the Disney universe that's not typical.
Okay, tell me more.
Like with Rachel, we talked about her and Bonnie as a service dog, and
That
the
was a fun
experience with
episode,
that.
too.
That was an awesome episode and an awesome experience. And then with James, that was in a different realm of the Disney bubble, and it's just from different perspectives. And I think if we can present people with different perspectives, they'll have a deeper appreciation for Disney as an overall.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to force Lariah to do a Ghosts of Disney World episode.
That will be cool.
Oh, yeah.
I think that, that one's...
Can you do 4? You can just do October for us next year.
Sure. I would love
to. See, this is the kind of stuff Lariah is really good at, because she really likes researching that kind of stuff, where if it involves research, I'm not the biggest fan of that.
Again, self-awareness is very important.
So, yeah, that'll be cool.
Oh, yeah, I would take that.
Yeah. We'll talk about
we'll
of that for episode plans. But yeah, for sure. Like there's even, like we've been watching, Candace and I watch All Ears a lot. And in one of the windows...
And Mammoth Club. But anyway.
Yeah. One of the windows in the America Pavilion. No.
Liberty Square.
Why do I always forget that?
I don't know.
The poop water.
The poop river.
river.
Yeah.
Poop.
Yeah, we were talking about that a couple episodes ago.
Poop.
Good Lord. But there's a doll in a window that moves.
And it's not an animatronic. It's like an old, 1800s rag doll.
Like a scary doll that will, like, every time you walk by it, will be in a different place in the window.
In a different position.
Okay.
See,
Well, get ready, folks.
Get after it.
yeah. Yeah, I'm really excited for our next season, because I feel like we scratched the surface of the podcast and about Disney and everything. We've, talked about our favorites, our likes, our opinions and everything. And I feel like with season 3, I feel like people know more about us to where we can do more deep dives.
Yeah.
And we kind of, I don't want to say got all of that cliche stuff out of the way, because those episodes were fun, but we also are deep Disney people, to where I think those deeper episodes we can finally start doing them. And it's going to be a lot like Ghosts of Disney World and stuff, getting really deep into it, to where it'd be really fun to talk about those things.
Yeah, agreed. Like what you said, the deep dive, like deeper Disney, and those are the kind of things. And some of the more fun ones, I think, again, we're now to the spot where we can do a lot more. Like we've talked a little bit about doing watch parties with each other, and just watching a good or a bad Disney movie and just cracking jokes through it, and just sort of watching it together, or even there's going to be some new fireworks shows coming up, doing that kind of thing, where we all say, hey, none of us have seen this movie, let's go watch it on our own, and then come back and let's discuss it and see what it is. Those are the kind of things that I think are really interesting to listen to, and I'm excited for us to be able to get into some of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I think getting away from the traditional Disney content, if that makes sense, and taking it more in our own direction is what I would love to see.
Yep.
Right. And we've lightly discussed going on a Disney trip in the foreseeable future. We are waiting. I think we're all on the same page, where we're kind of waiting for dining plans to come back. And, waiting for the 50th anniversary to kind of, be done with, because as we've mentioned, we're not the biggest fan of crowds, which is pretty much unavoidable when it comes to Disney. But I think also perhaps maybe some fun planning videos, stuff that we're maybe, we could lightly talk about, would be also fun to do.
Where we just sit down and drink and talk about our next trip.
Yeah.
And start pricing it out, and let people listen into the kind of conversation we have when Candace is wanting us to stay at the Grand Californian, and I'm like, well, there's a Good Neighbor hotel that's a block and a half away that costs a third. And then listening to her tell me why I'm wrong.
Right. It's,
Right? They can't hear you shake your head at me.
I don't think they have to.
Candace, I love Candace because she wants, I hate the word bougie, but
I'm bougie.
she is bougie. And I love that about you, Candace, because you don't care. Even if you know it's not in the price range, you're still going to shoot for it and pitch it. And I'm here for it. I love hearing her pitch why we should stay at the Grand Floridian.
Because I can justify it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's so great.
And it makes sense in my head.
It's so much fun.
Maybe
to
not on
listen to.
paper.
Yeah, and then I show you the checkbook, and you're like, oh.
Oh. All right.
Where is that hidden money I thought we had?
Right.
Wait, we won Powerball, right?
We're going to sell the house to go on this trip, right?
We're moving to Disney because we don't have a choice, right?
Oh, that's too funny. Okay. Anything else that we want to chat about as part of our last episode of the season?
I think the only thing that I would have to say is if you are just finding us now, you have a couple months break. Go back and listen from the beginning. Get in touch with us. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you want to hear.
Yeah,
and welcome.
Yeah, and welcome. And for our longtime listeners, thank you.
Yes.
We have a group of people that we know listens fairly regularly. We appreciate you more than you know. We didn't get into this podcast to become rich and famous, just to have conversations, again, sort of schedule our get-togethers where we get to have some fun, and you just get to listen, and you've done that and given us good feedback and that kind of thing, and we appreciate you more than you know.
Absolutely.
And with that, remember, until next season, there's a great big beautiful tomorrow.
And we'll see you real soon.